This is a Stab in the Dark review, and today we're looking at Smile 2, released just recently this year, and is a follow-up to a direct sequel, in fact, to Smile from 2022. We've got Naomi Scott, who plays the pop star in this one, and features Rosemary DeWitt, Lucas Gage, Miles Gutierrez Riley, Peter Jacobson, Ray Nicholson, Dylan Joanna, and Rael Castillo, and Kyle Gardner reprising his role from the first film. So I'm going to start with you, Mike. Initial reactions to the film. Did you enjoy yourself?
Loved it better than the first one. Brilliant performance from the leading lady. Much better, like by huge orders of magnitude, better ending than the first one. Yeah, all-round success as far as I'm concerned.
Awesome. Dave, how about yourself?
Yeah, I also loved it. I also think it's better than the first one. In some ways, it felt almost like a remake of the first one. It was very similar.
Yeah.
And I don't think he could do it a third time.
It's all about setting, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
What differentiated this from the first one is the identity, or what makes the main
but
character the main character.
I like the setting in this one better. The performance, Naomi Scott, easily one of the best of the year, in my opinion.
Yep, I'd agree with that.
The cinematography, some of the set pieces, amazing, and quite scary as well.
Yeah, I like the Skye Riley character, the
Yeah.
pop star. It reminded me a lot of Miley Cyrus, this short hair thing going on, or Katy Perry during that era as well. You know, and the lots of like the kind of drug addiction issues and going through that phase as a pop star. And I quite like the integration of that and turn it into a horror film. So I definitely enjoyed
It's a character archetype we don't see very often, especially not in horror. Not to my recollection, anyway.
And I know you're saying it's kind of like a remake. I get the idea, actually, that you're saying that you wouldn't be able to do it for a third time, and I don't particularly think you would be able to, because I was watching Smile 2 directly after watching that day Smile, so I went to the cinema straight after, basically, and it does follow along. So it's only 6 days later where we begin. We get a really cool cold opening to the film, and yeah, it really does kind of just pick up where the last one left off. It's like you end one on Netflix and begin the next one. It's almost like what they're aiming for eventually, is to watch them back to back. And yeah, a lot of the same sort of stuff does happen, the way things happen. I thought there was enough of a twist to change it and to differentiate it from the first one. But you're definitely right. It would be too similar to do that again. And I think they would have to raise the stakes, and I think they have raised the stakes.
Well, with the way that the movie ends, without spoiling it, it definitely leads into, if they were going to do a Smile 3, it'd have to be quite different, in a Rings
It'd be very
sort of way
different,
to
yeah.
Ring.
Or you could just do a prequel and be a coward.
Well, that's not what I want to say.
Yeah.
No.
Smile 0. Yeah.
So what did you think of the production, and what do you think of the sound within it? Did you enjoy the music?
I did. I actually rewatched the first film quite recently as well, and there's something about the sound. I don't know exactly who does it, but it's very kind of like unique. I can't really like compare it to anything else. I find it quite stressful. Like
Well, like tension-inducing sound design.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I found it very tense. I stayed during the credits of the films I watch, and I listened to the kind of overture of it, and really, really tense up till the last screen where it tells you who funded the film. And it gets more tense as we get to that moment. So actually it was really kind of interesting to listen to it in that way. You've also got the added idea of the soundtrack in it, extending to the music, the pop songs as well. So there's these made up pop songs for the character of Skye Riley,
Which are apparently available on Spotify. And so on.
Just looking on here, and they are. Yeah, so you can kind of there is apparently at Skye Riley Nation Instagram account teasing a new era of the pop star named Skye Riley. So they've blurred the lines somewhat. They have their scene with her in the beginning with Drew Barrymore on the Drew Barrymore show. And I remember the first trailer I saw for Smile 2 was actually just like a short, like a reel. And I thought it was actually a pop star I didn't know. Like I was just out of the loop of modern pop stars. And it's really convincing, actually. So I thought that was a really cool element to the film. So I enjoyed that about it. It almost reminds me a little bit of, there's been a couple of films this year that actually have done some of the same stuff. So you got Trapped. So the pop star thing. I think in any other era, this would have been quite original, but the fact that this has come out the same year as Trapped means that there's two films which have a lot of their action happen in a huge stadium, in this case Madison Square Garden.
It's funny you mention that, actually, like this concept of like twin movies that, that basically enter production presumably at roughly the same time.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like one was plagiarizing the other.
Happened over decades and decades. Your classic Deep Impact and Armageddon situation.
I mean, even earlier this year, right, with Immaculate and The First Omen.
Indeed.
I find it just fascinating that happens. I mean, in my opinion, Smile 2 executed this a million times better than Trap.
Yeah, I mean, they're not as similar as a lot of those similar movies, but it's definitely better than Trap, I would imagine. Yeah, and it's
did I call it Trapped when it's meant to be Trap?
You did.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Trapped is probably what
apologies.
the sequel's going to be called if that ever comes out. But yeah, I mean, if we're going to compare those very slightly, I think in Trap there's a lot more music for music's sake, for the purpose of
his daughter's in it.
Daughter being glorified, whereas they have a lot more purpose for being in the movie.
And it follows that she's had an addiction to painkillers and to cocaine and things like this, and this idea of her falling back into her addiction.
Yeah, and it's a somewhat familiar story, not just from real life, but from a lot of movies, but presented in a way where that character is the main character, and also it being a horror movie. And you do see parts of a performance. It's not a burned out ex pop star that you often see.
Yeah.
It's an active one, which is still famous and leads to this like aggressive time schedule constraints on her life throughout the movie, which add to the tension because she has an import outside of surviving the thing that afflicts her. So
I thought there was an expansion on the idea that the entity, whatever it is, this demon, takes a hold of your life in general, and you have hallucinations or things that aren't real, that aren't there, which happen. And I think they turn that up to 11 in this one compared to the first one, where they kind of play with it, but they play with it less than they do.
Yeah, in the first one, it's a lot more like characters coming in that you don't recognize that turn out to be the thing. Yeah. Whereas in this one, there's quite large swathes of the movie that are not actually happening because of the infiltration of the being into her mind, which I think is a lot more freeing idea for the purposes of making a horror movie. And I think that's a genius evolution of the idea of what the creature is or the demon is.
Definitely. And it was almost like it is bespoke every single time. Whatever is going to freak out the person it's infecting, it's going to evoke a different and deal with it in a different way. The first one, she's a therapist, so they play around with her in therapy. That idea.
Because like the entity is kind of like an allegory for like a trauma response, right? Like, but as you say, it affects the host differently. And it was, interesting because in the first one, she has this history with her mother who passed away when she was young. Like, that was a traumatic event, and it manifests as the mother quite a lot.
She saw her mother on the bed after she just committed suicide.
It's quite similar to what Pennywise does, right? Yeah. And a lot of other famous kind of horror characters where they use the fears of the character they're attacking against them.
But I just really enjoyed the idea that this is a character who's been through a traumatic event in the eye of the public, and she's a pop star. She's seen in the same way as like a Miley Cyrus, and she even kind of has the build of a Miley Cyrus and the sort of similar songs and the dance movements. And some of the dance movements in this are really interesting too. There's a specific scene which I really thought maybe was a standout moment in the movie a bit later on. But we'll save that for spoilers,
especially when it's really contrasted with a horror bit that happens later on in the movie as well.
And then it plays into the idea that actually she's going to let people down. A lot of what she's doing is never for herself; it's for everyone else around her.
And she's pushing herself too hard.
Too hard too soon after all her issues.
Well, this is what's so brilliant. Like, and it really impresses me. Like. If you take away all the supernatural elements of both films,
still a good drama.
How they, exactly, and how it basically works as a metaphor for the different kind of like mental health issues that you have in these different settings, brought on different types of trauma, and you have different responses, and that's like why the entity manifests itself slightly differently to each person, because everybody has, there's not just like a one size fits all mental health problem that you can suffer.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, with this one, because of her past addiction issues and stuff, I almost saw the entity as something of an addictive force. Like, it will put you into shame. It is driving that within it, and it's interesting because of this film. I saw it and it manifests itself differently in this as I did to the first one. So there's those subtle differences in what mental health issue it is. And in this case, I saw more of that. And every time she's trying to fix something, it is destroying it. And every time she's trying to get back on top, it grabs her back down and forces her back into this sort of circular, this pit of pain and misery. And yeah, I just found that really interesting how it developed like that within this film.
Because of the context, not only does it make it more unique, but it makes it infinitely more interesting to me than the first movie. I mean, I don't remember the first movie perfectly, but as you say, I think it's mother troubles, parental troubles, right? Which is something we've seen in horror movies and continue to see in horror movies all the time for just a person in society, which doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad movie or completely unoriginal or anything like that. But compared to this movie, where you do have an interesting character that you don't necessarily see a character archetype like that, who is a pop star, active pop star, in a horror movie, that's just a perfect movement of one idea to a much more unique and interesting setting.
And the idea that this thing infects and affects every single person.
You're not immune from it.
Exactly.
You can be rich, you can be famous, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And that's just something that happens with mental health and different issues. So I think it's a really interesting film, and they definitely develop it from the first film. In the first one, I know then and now when I recently rewatched it, I wanted to see more of this therapist character be able to take it on in some way. I wanted to see a bit more development. It's a bit like a zombie film sometimes, where they're looking for a cure,
solution,
and I wanted a bit more solution from the first film. This film, I'm less bothered about that. This is more of a personal journey, whereas I think the first one, because she's a working therapist in the first one, I wanted more of that. But in this one, the pop star, there's more of an idea of her just dealing internally with everything.
And so constantly throughout the movie, she's pulled away from the possibility of ever dealing with her problems, purely because everybody else is pulling her for one thing or another, supposedly for a career, but really for their own personal benefit. Yeah.
So for me, I think I'll give this about 6.5, 7, somewhere around there. That's what it gets from
that's
me.
pretty low in my mind. I give this as an 8. I loved it.
Okay.
I'd give it an 8 as well. Yeah.
Maybe I would try to like.
You're gonna backtrack.
I might backtrack.
You're gonna edit around it so you never said 6 or 7 in the first place.
No, it is more of a 7.
You're gonna animate those lips. Yeah.
It wasn't me saying it. It was the demon.
Yeah.
And then the demon is you. Why are you smiling at me like that?
Very happy to be the demon. Yeah.
Because I'm trying to change my top 10 system, and like you're now like going, yeah, I love this. You're throwing them out there like nobody's business recently.
Not for
This
Terrifier.
is what I've been saying for years about you.
I'm too positive. Is that what you're saying?
Your scores mean nothing.
How dare you enjoy
The
movies?
scores, they do nothing.
Well, you'll know it when I give out a disgusting 6 or 5. So yeah.
Well, I'm gonna change it then to an 8. I can backtrack. Coward. No, it takes a true hero to be able to admit when they're wrong.
It takes a true
And I bet
hero
you're going
to
to keep
change
all
his
of
mind
this in,
in the
are you?
face
You're not
of
going to
somebody
edit
else's
anything out.
decision.
Yeah.
So yeah, the podcast agreement there at 8 out of 10.
Yeah. All three of us, all at once. We all at the same time.
Nobody copied anybody else.
No,
it was all independent thought and reasoning. Yeah.
All right, so quick spoilers chat that will begin now. So if you haven't seen it yet, just make sure you do, and then come back to this after. And remember to like, share, and subscribe if you are leaving now. So bye. Otherwise, let's carry on. So what did you reckon? That ending. Let's talk about that ending.
Ending's amazing.
Oh, the ending was
great.
awesome.
One of the weakest elements of the first movie, I thought, was the ending. I didn't like the personification of the demon. It was like
the mouth.
I liked it. To be honest, like it got a lot of criticism, like for like using the like gangly old woman trope. Which
yeah,
was
it's like Marmar too.
Marmar, and then there was like Barbarian, and then It as well was doing it at that time.
It's about execution. It's not necessarily the design of the thing,
It's
the way it's used.
I thought it was a bit CGI and a little bit
chase around the house.
A bit goofy.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit goofy for what the film is. Although it has its goofy moments. I laughed out loud at the first one when it was like, "You're going to die. You're going to die." I thought that was to.
Well, I saw that in the trailer, and I was like, "Oh, this is like
Yeah.
some Blumhouse shit."
There is little
like,
bits of levity in the movies.
Yeah,
though,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's-
Which
Definitely.
works.
Happy
Which
with
works.
that.
Well, like the
which
kid in the first one, the hilarious
Mm.
when she's like going mental in the car after her daughter,
When it's like-
sorry, her sister is sort of after the cat, like she's
Yeah, yeah.
supposedly murdered the cat, and it's in the like kids. When she goes back to like talk to her sister, and then is in the car and she's having a breakdown in the
And then
car.
the kid's just
kid is
watching.
watching through the window,
Yeah.
and it's quite a
Mm.
funny moment. Like, so yeah, they definitely have these bits in the film.
Yeah, yeah.
But I love the ending. And does that mean now we have 20,000 people in Madison Square Garden who are all going?
Unless it transfers through video and it was a live performance, then therefore
Everyone
many,
in
many
that
more.
room.
Yeah.
Oh, was
Which-
it live on TV?
Was it? I think it was live on TV, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Oh,
yeah, maybe.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
In
there
which
we
case,
go.
millions then.
So how are they
Yeah.
going to follow on from
Well,
that?
exactly. The
Yeah.
only movie to try and do that kind of scale tried to do it with
Was it Rings?
the Ring series with
Yeah,
Rings,
yeah,
and it was
yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
So, but I would be very happy if they could pull that off if they were going to do.
I love to see it, and I love to see that on a huge scale with a big budget. Maybe $200 million, they could do something good with that.
What, Joker 2 instead of
Yeah,
making Joker 3.
Yeah, make Smile
Yeah.
3, please.
But it is an amazing ending, especially as you don't see until right at the end what's happening. You only see the shocked and
Leaves it to the imagination. I
reeling
love that.
faces. Yeah,
Well, that happens in the first one as well. Like, when it finally, like, when she finally kills herself, you actually look at a reflection of it happening in Joel's eyes, and
Yeah.
it's exactly the same thing in the second one. He like parallels it, but this time with the audience's reaction, right?
yeah.
I also
yeah.
like that Joel at the beginning actually saved himself and then got.
Oh, and he just got fucked over. Yeah,
And that's a great opening.
That opening was amazing.
It might be my favorite bit of the movie, and actually
Yeah.
second bit favorite, because I think my favorite bit of the movie
The dance?
is that dance, the creepy dance scene in the house,
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
because that is like a movement
Yeah,
scene.
yeah.
That's like drama, like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
like being in drama school.
You mean every time she turns around and it's closer and closer?
Yeah,
Yeah, and then they
because-
do like a movement.
That's
they're all
amazing.
of her
and
fans.
it's quite unnerving. I'm
Yeah.
not an easy
Yeah.
person to unnerve, but like it is just an unnerving concept, isn't it? Especially when they're kind of writhing as one mass towards you. Yeah, shit's scary,
it's great.
creepy.
And then like when they finally do, because you're never sure if they can touch her, if they actually have any.
You don't know what the
power.
rules are. It
Yeah.
seems too early. You know it's too early
Yeah.
in the runtime of the movie, so you don't know what's going to happen.
But then I just love the idea that there's this movement piece, something you genuinely would see on a stage, because she is a stage artist, and it's just something you genuinely would see at some sort of experimental new age dance, and I love that they've put that into this
Yeah.
film. It's a really interesting,
Especially the bit where they're in that tight quarters as it's going through
Yeah.
the walk-in
Oh, no,
wardrobe.
yeah,
or
that is
whatever.
great. They're like
it was in
insects.
the trailer, so slightly spoiled.
Oh, that's a
but I think
shame.
it's amazing. Like the claustrophobic
Yeah, I think like in
setting
in
and
context,
the
it's way better as well. Than
the POV shot, and they're right there in front of you, all moving as one mass.
Do you know there's a
It's
theory
great.
because that sequence ends with them grabbing her right and putting one of them puts
Yeah.
their hand
Yeah,
down the
yeah,
throat.
they're
So there's a
just
theory.
being taken over. Yeah,
That's it. Yeah, like everything from then on is not real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, it's not a theory though, is it? That's basically it's a clue, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it does that in the first one, but I don't recollect at what point or what happens afterwards. But yeah,
I also love in this second one the best friend character,
Mm.
or not the
The one that's never
yeah,
there.
the one that's actually not in the film.
Gemma.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
I was thinking during the film, well, this is really stupid because there's no way she would just be back in her life buying her coffee.
Yeah, I love that
After-
it's a bit of a Sixth Sense kind of thing where nobody ever
yeah.
talks to
Yeah,
her because
yeah,
she's
yeah.
not there. Yeah,
Yeah, that's actually true. I didn't even thought
Yeah.
of that. Yeah.
which makes it quite. I mean, I
Oh, yeah.
didn't realize it straight away, so it would give it interesting rewatch
Yeah,
value.
because even when the mother comes in and
Yeah, she gives her like
talks to the
hello,
mother,
and
but
then
she doesn't get
nothing.
acknowledged.
it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
hi, whatever her face is. Like
Elizabeth,
that was
yeah.
hi Elizabeth. That was quite funny. That was yeah. Oh god.
movie.
It's actually brilliant
Yeah.
because that little piece of levity.
Now
that-
it does deserve an 8 from
Yeah.
me.
I've sold you on it. You're not just copied now. You
No,
changed your
yeah,
opinion
yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, because I struggled a bit with the first 45 minutes because I thought it was a bit too similar.
Mm.
And then it started to go off.
Possibly
in its
afflicted
own-
by the fact that you watched the first movie right beforehand.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I feel like the opening was brilliant. And then that build up after that, I found a bit much. But then actually, when I look at it and I'm reflecting on it, I kind of go, well, actually, they built up her character really nicely, and they built up those around her. I thought the mother was a complete arsehole, but I don't know how much of that is actually the mother and how much of that is this entity. So
Yeah.
you can't tell if is the mother actually an arsehole or is that mother actually.
And to a certain extent,
Yeah.
we don't really have any idea of what the mother's motivations are. We only get what she says to the kid, the main character, after she's already caused damage and after she's already, causing problems for the mother's what plans are and stuff. Yeah, it's supposed to be a little bit of a nod to Perfect Blue. Which I'm guessing you haven't seen.
No, was the blank look on my face the big giveaway there?
Definitely, but I can't see Dave's look of recognition, I can only see your blank look. So, but yeah, there's a.
It's about whales. What was it?
yeah, it's about the perfect blue whale. It's like a reboot of Free Willy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's about an insane stalker that follows like an It's set in Japan and it's an anime horror movie. And it's about an insane fan going after this pop idol in a very similar to that, man.
Yeah, and there's like psychological breakdown elements to that as well.
There's an influence or a homage, at least in that little scene. Yeah.
And if you weren't sure, we're talking about the guy who was at the fan club thing.
Yeah,
who gets that
has to be dragged away because he wants to marry her, and also he appears again in spook form. Not really there.
Yeah.
He does like a four-limbed gallop. Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon the sound in this, the moments, the jump scares, they don't overdo it with the jump scares. There's only a few, and they all mean something, so I don't mind them in there.
No, it was an amazing theatre experience.
Yeah. It's definitely worth if you can go to the pictures and see it at the cinema, it's so worth it. Definitely good.
more so than most of the rest of stuff from this year, I would say. I'm going to go ahead and say it.
Okay.
I like this movie. It's great. Yeah.
8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 for a horror movie is chef's kiss.
Yeah. Like the menu.
Yes.
We're supposed to get that.
Is that is that famous? Is that the only movie with chefs in you could think of?
Well, it's a horror movie with chefs in. Voldemort's in it.
The man who shall not be named.
Yeah.
Don't get us cancelled. Yeah.
What by the Ministry of Magic?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, on that, it's time to end. So thank you so much for joining us this time round. Go and see Smile 2 in the cinemas. It's really, really good. And remember to like, share, subscribe for all the latest horror reviews and retrospectives and whatever else we come up with next. Who knows? Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.